My name is Hunter Bass. The component that I chose was the subject on the existence versus the non-existence of God. To aid me in answering this philosophical statement, I will be comparing and going into detail about the following three philosophical worldviews: Atheism, Theism, and Naturalism. I will give thorough explanations as to what these three worldviews are, when they began, and their explanation in relationship to the existence versus the non-existence of God. In doing this, it will allow a deeper understanding of how these beliefs began and their ties to which side of the spectrum that they lie on, being the existence of God versus the non-existence of God. Starting with atheism, beginning in the 16th century, it is the belief and or the lack of belief in any sort of God. By this, I mean that it does not have to technically be related to just a Christian God, but any sort of higher power. Atheism is not a religion, but rather it's a way of thinking. This means that the specific subject has a direct relationship to the second part of my philosophical statement, which is the non-existence of God. There's also a very important aspect of atheism that most people do not know. As time has gone on, there has been a creation of two different types of atheism, what we call positive and negative atheism. Positive atheism is what we know now, most atheists to be now. They've accepted the fact that no God exists, and this means that they have formed an opinion based off of information that has been presented to them, meaning they have done their research, they've educated themselves about God, or in this case, no God. The other category, negative atheism, means that an opinion was never formed. Research was never done, and facts were never presented to them, meaning that they were never presented with any information about there being no God. They just did not want to believe. They haven't cared to believe. Something else about atheism is that it doesn't have a rule book. In Christian terms, that would be called a Bible, and they don't have a leader, or such as the Pope within the Roman Catholic Church. That can cause confusion throughout the belief system. Different viewpoints among these atheists allow issues to arise within its community, and the root of atheism is revolved around the belief of a lack of empirical knowledge or conclusions. This lack of knowledge has led atheists to become confident in the fact that we cannot know for sure that Jesus Christ has ever existed, listing this under the non-existence of God. The second one I would like to compare is theism to the non-existence of God. The word theism began to be used around the 18th century following the first biblical account being written, which is very important. This biblical account was Genesis 2:4. Theism is very often confused with the ideals of religion. Religion has more of a scoped tunnel vision aspect to it, meaning that there is a belief in a specific type of God. You are aimed towards a specific religion, a specific God, a specific leader. Theism is set on a way more broad spectrum. It's simply the belief in the existence of a higher power at all. The two concepts of theism and religion are so easily misconstrued because they're so closely related. Over time, theism has been deemed unimportant by many due to this broadness and openness. This ideology does not rely on what you specifically believe, nor how you came to that belief like most religions do. It is just simply the fact that you believe in something. Even though theism is a broad subject, there has been the creation of multiple different types of it. There's something that we like to call monotheism, which would be the belief in one God. Polytheism, which is the belief in multiple gods, one not being more powerful than the other. Ditheism, which is two gods, one being good and evil, but one not more powerful than the other. And then something called henotheism, which is one God that is above others with the belief that multiple other gods exist as well. Over time, the most common type of theism has become monotheism, which would lead to religions that we know now, such as Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Christianity could easily be misconstrued with ditheism due to the fact that in the biblical text, there is two entities in the church, good and evil. What separates Christianity from ditheism is that the devil is not seen as a god, but rather an opposing force of Jesus, Jesus being a good force, and the devil being an evil force. One thing that I feel is very important to mention is the inverse relationship between atheism and theism. A literally means not believing. Theism means to believe in God. Atheism means to not believe in God. They are complete opposites. Theists understood the word atheist as an insult throughout the 17th and 18th century. This allows us to see that atheism is in correlation to the existence of God. Even though the belief of which God is unknown, it still stands that theism believes in the existence of God. Lastly, I'll be relating naturalism to the existence versus the non-existence of God. Within the 19th century, the idea of naturalism was brought up by a French novelist by the name of Émile Zola. The definition of naturalism means that all matter and beings within our universe are completely natural. In relation to God, naturalists share the belief that only the natural world exists, thus relating our reality to science. They do not believe in any sort of spiritual beings or entities that are not natural. With that being said, the ideology of naturalism falls under the category of the non-existence of God. The belief is that the universe could not be created by an almighty God because of the fact that it is not simply scientific to say that. Naturalists have the understanding that our universe was created from space, matter, and that's proven within the characteristics that it created. What we know now as math, the laws of physics, and the elements of the periodic table. With this belief in science, these ideas are followed by the belief of concepts like evolution by natural selection, with an absence of any sort of higher power or God. The worldviews that I chose to talk about were atheism, theism, and naturalism. In correlation to the question that I chose, the existence versus the non-existence of God. In my discoveries, I found that atheism is the belief in no gods, or any sort of higher power. So that would put atheism on the non-existent side of my question, non-existence of God. Theism is the belief in a God, being completely opposite of atheism, like I mentioned before. Naturalism is dealing with the understanding that everything in our physical world is here because of science, and not because of a God, placing it on the side of the non-existence of God.